it's been a long journey. Let's get into it. I was diagnosed in 2008 and I was 25. And this was at a time where there wasn't much information on this illness. There wasn't much stuff even on YouTube. There were a few videos, but nothing that I found helpful. And I've gone through various stages of this journey. When I was first diagnosed, I had no clue what this was. And I didn't really realize how much of an impact it would have on my life. Originally, I had been put on pharmaceuticals. I was on a drug called Azicol, and it gave me like joint pain. And then they put me on a drug called azathioprine. And azathioprine is a drug that lowers your immune system, because with ulcerative colitis, your immune system is just haywire. It's going nuts. And what this does is this kind of like lowers that loop in your body. But the problem with that is when you do that, now you're susceptible to infection and you're susceptible to certain cancers. And so now you have to be even more vigilant. You got to be more careful. So I went on this path, and eventually I found a drug called Aprezo. And this was about 2012. And at the time, I had a friend who was driving to California he was going to go there for a job. He had a production job for a couple months, and he asked if I wanted to go. And I was like, hell yeah. But then I thought, when I was considering it, I thought, well, I'm going to be in the car for a while. I'm not going to have access to a bathroom. This terrifies me. This gives me anxiety. So I ended up around this time seeing a new GI doctor, and the GI doctor gave me a drug called Aprezo. And Aprezo was a time-release capsule. So what it did was, a lot of times the medicine will dissolve in your stomach, but this was able to, use its effect once it reached the large intestines. And I took it, and there's a term called magic pill syndrome, where people think, oh, you just take a pill and then it just solves all your problems. Well, this was the exception, because when I took this pill, I used to have I couldn't control my bowel movements. And I took this pill, and it was like I was in remission again. So I ended up going on that road trip. My life was smooth. The problem with that, and the problem with Western medicine, is it's a Band-Aid. It doesn't fix the root issue. And over time and over the years, I just started to develop bad habits. I would stay up late. I would drink. I would, take red light plane rides home, going on vacation, only to work the next day. And it was really fucking me up. It was really not healthy. And I put myself in a flare again. And I found myself in the hospital. And my condition originally was like a mild case, but it went from mild to severe. And when it got to severe, I had to start considering other treatment options. And that was like Remicade and Humira and Entyvio and these sort of things. And so when I was at that stage, my mom and I, we were like torn between Humira and Remicade. We ended up going with Remicade. And so the scary part of that was that I would have to go to a infusion clinic and get infused with these like toxic drugs for like 2 hours. I did this so much that like it got me to a place where I was where I thought I was healthy, but I could get back into work. I could get back into my life. And I was taking way too much of this stuff. Like I was going to these clinics a lot. And then they would do blood tests and they would still say you have very high inflammation. And around this time, I had moved to New York and I was seeing a GI doctor there, and they prescribed me Humira. In Humira, you didn't have to go to an infusion clinic. You could just literally inject yourself. So around that time, I was doing this like every week. I was doing the injections every week, and then I would get tests, and they would just still say the same thing. You still have high inflammation. So obviously it wasn't working. So one of the they talk about bad decision making when it comes to your life, and one of the worst decisions I could have ever made in my life was just stopping Humira cold turkey. Because I had seen so many people online healing themselves by going vegan, healing themselves by changing their diet. And I thought, well, what's to say I can't do that? So I ended up, at this point in my life, I was living in Los Angeles, California, and I quit Humira, September of 2017. And it wasn't until that following February where I put myself into another flare. And I was living in Los Angeles, California. I was trying to push my career, push my life out there. The universe had other plans. My body had other plans. And so over the course of 3 or 4 months, I started deteriorating. I was following this vegan diet, but I wasn't doing any medicine. And my life was falling apart. And I had to make the hard decision of moving back to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, ultimately moving in with my folks. And around that time, I was just so depressed. I was so sad. I sort of felt like I was being robbed of my future. I sort of felt like, I did feel like I was victimized. I sort of felt like, why is this happening? Why do I have to go down this path? And this whole journey has developed a stronger relationship with God. And through this whole experience, I really have doubled down on my Buddhism and really found a higher calling. But going back to my journey, it was really around 2019 where I really began to take it much more seriously. And I was living with my folks, and my mom had suggested me seeing a functional medicine doctor. And this guy he was kind of like an immunologist, so he was trying to build up my immune system. And I saw him for years. There were, I would say, 3 or 4 years where I would see him, I don't know, maybe twice a year or 3 times a year. And he would give me supplements, and he would give me different therapies to use. And I was doing hyperbaric oxygen chamber. I was doing ozone. I was also going to another clinic based in Milwaukee, and they did a lot of alternative therapies, like detoxing. And there's a machine called the Rife machine, which is supposed to use frequency to kill cancer cells and detox you. And it has been such a long journey because, that took so long from really 2018 up until, I would say, 2023 has been almost the last hurrah of this illness, because at my lowest, I was 125 pounds. I now weigh 170. I've built my body up. And through all that, the things that have helped me is connecting with God, finding a spiritual practice, doing something that you can focus on that is part of a larger community of people that are all trying to elevate themselves to the same vibration, And for me, Buddhism has really helped with that. I have so much gratitude for my practice, because there were days where I never thought things would get better. I never thought my situation would improve, because I kept going down the same path. And also, you also want to be on top of your diet. The diet is so important. Avoiding processed foods, eating whole foods, getting enough water, and supplements too. You don't want to disregard supplements. There's some people who do not believe in supplements, but I do believe in supplements. I think certain supplements are very helpful for your healing. And then finally, around 2022, I was dating my girlfriend at the time, and I originally was still seeing that functional medicine doctor, but I felt I had reached a plateau with him. I sort of reached I couldn't get any further in my healing, and I had to consider other options. And so there was a program online called Crohn's Colitis Lifestyle. And these folks tried to empower you to heal yourself on your own by building a community of people that were struggling with the same illness. And they have so many videos and portals and people that you can connect with. And I ended up joining this program. And ultimately, this program was the thing that pushed me over the finish line, because there were therapies I never even considered, like doing enemas and doing castor oil packs and doing, breathing techniques and mindfulness techniques. And these things all really helped control my energy and control my nervous system, because ultimately when you're dealing with these things, it's all in your head. It starts in your head. And the minute that you can shift out of that identity into a whole new identity is when your reality is going to change, because the illness cannot exist in that new version of yourself. And that's this season that I'm moving in now, is just going through this identity shift in my life, going through this period of shedding the old beliefs, knowing my value, knowing my worth, getting my confidence back, letting people see my aura, my authenticity. It's beautiful. It's so cool. I'm beginning to rediscover myself. I'm rediscovering what I love and what I like to do and what interests me, and doing things alone, being comfortable by yourself, and knowing that it's only short term. And I just really have begun to understand the journey and the process, even though I keep telling people it feels ass backwards. But I know God has a plan for me, and I know there's something that's going to be so beautiful that comes out of this, and it already has. And that's really been my journey so far. That's really been my journey, and it's actually led me to content creation, because I was going through a period in my life currently where I wasn't really feeling fulfilled with my work. I work as a freelance video editor and motion designer, and I've been doing it for a while. And it's been difficult. It's been very challenging trying to find consistent work. But I just figured I'd pour into myself. I figured I'd tell my story, because it's been a wild ride. And I know there's a lot of people that are suffering and that are going through very challenging times. They could be dealing with a chronic issue. They could be dealing with a breakup. They could be dealing with a loss of a job. And I just realized that through this whole process, I've always been fine. I've always been Miles. I've always I've showed so much grit, and I've showed so much willpower that I'm so proud of myself. I'm so proud that I've made it this far. And all I want to do is transmute that energy into this platform. I want to inspire people. I want to change their belief system. I want to let them know that they can really have everything they want in this world. And it really just starts with your mind. And this whole year has really taught me that. This whole year has really taught me that we're our own worst enemy. And when we get out of our way, life begins happening for us. And life is just so beautiful. It's so cool. And meeting people and having different experiences and just showing gratitude for it all. When you're in it, when you're going through the tough times, it's very hard to feel that way. It's very hard to see things from that perspective. But I feel the joy comes in life is when you surmount those things. And when I pass the test, and when I beat colitis, and when I look back in the rear mirror of in my life, I just thank God. I'm like, thank you for building me into this strong-willed person. Because ultimately, he's trying to use you as a vessel to help other people. And I just realized that I have a mission, I have a gift, and I have a purpose here. And that purpose is to really awaken people. That purpose is to open people's minds to ways of just living a much more fulfilling life. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for joining. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more notifications if you're interested in following this content. And until next time, I love you guys and God bless. Peace.